Okay, in this video, we're now going to start setting up our island detail and sections plans. And so the first thing we want to do is set up a new view. So what you're going to do is you're going to be in your kitchen project. So that's mine there for 2025. You're going to go to the View tab, and the second button in, you're going to click Add a View, and you're going to say Add a General View. We could use these, but like I said, they're a little quirky. So name now is going to be Kitchen Island Details. And you're going to say next, and you're going to say first floor, and you're going to say next, and then you're going to uncheck constructs, scroll the way down, click base plan, click finish. All right, now if that doesn't work, so I'm going to open this up because I know we had a couple people this year having some issues with that. So I'm going to open mine up, and it should just have my kitchen floor plan here because I'm going to use this now to generate some of my drawings. If you do not have that, if that didn't work, what you're going to do instead is go to constructs, click on base plan, and drag it in. I'm not going to do it to mine because it kind of ends up creating like a copy reference, but that's how you're going to do that one. Okay, before we do any of the kind of starting to generate the drawings of this, what we're going to do also is change the scale. So by default, it usually starts out at 1/4 of an inch. So we're going to go down here on the bottom, click on that. And this time you're actually going to pick 1 inch equals 1 foot. Generally, when we're doing detailed drawings and sections, we make them larger because again, the reasoning is we need to see the details. So we're enlarging this drawing, blowing it up a little bit. The example in the video I had in the past with the molding, I think we had it 3 inches or 6 inches equals a foot, meaning I'm taking something small, blowing it up really big. But for this project, we want 1 inch equals 1 foot. So go ahead and click that. All right, so the easiest part of this project first is doing an elevation. So you're going to be expected to do, depending on the style of your kitchen island, 1 or 2 elevations. So we're going to do one this way, and I might do one this way. Well, no, I don't need to because once I do a section, that'll make sense. So we're going to do one elevation this way. So you're going to go back over your tool palettes, and on call outs, you're going to pick this big one in the circle, elevation mark 1A, left click it once. Then I'm going to left click here, and you can see it's real tiny now. So I'm going to have ortho on. I'm going to click like this over to here to the left. And next it's going to ask me where I want it. So first I'm going to put it on 1 inch, and I'm going to say current drawing. And I'm going to get the whole front of this for mine. So again, for you in class, I'll sit with you. We'll kind of figure out which is the best view you want. But basically you want to be looking towards all those cabinets because again, you want to tell them where the cabinets are, where the sinks are, anything else you have in there. So you're going to left click here. It's called cutting the section there. All right, so far so good. I got a pretty good view of what I want happening here. I don't have a sink or anything really. I just have a lot of storage. Obviously, it's missing this part because this is all drawn on the ground. So let me put it in 3D so you can see. So the only thing that's really 3D are those cabinets. Everything else is kind of just drawn flat on the ground. So, whoops, hold on. Let me get back there to the top. Swing around there. Okay, there we go. All right, so this guy, now we need to figure out where does the countertop go? Like how far out to the right? So I'm going to just put, okay, this is what you get when you first do that first kind of basically elevation view of the front of your island here. So I'm also going to set up a couple depth points here. So first one is the ground. Then I have this one at the top of the countertop. So that one is at 34.5 inches tall. So if you want to just double check that. All right. And then from the ground up, I'm going to offset 36 inches. And that's the thickness of my countertop right now. So here's where you start to decide. If you have a waterfall edge here, let me pull this line up. What you're going to do is trace this line and then offset it to the left 1.5 inches. So I can show you that quick so you can see what that looks like. All right. Oops. Somehow I started at the wrong spot there. Let's go here. We're zooming there, there. Okay, we're offsetting 1.5 inches to the left. All right. And then if I use the fillet command here, we're going to do, oops, let's rotate there. there and there. And see, now I have, that would be my waterfall edge on the left if I wanted to do that. If you don't want a waterfall edge, the easiest thing is to, again, to use that same 1.5-inch reference point and just bring this over and delete. Actually, I'm going to fill it from here, this tiny little bit here to here. And that's just the slight overhang that you might have. You also might finish right up to the edge of the cabinet. That's becoming popular too in kind of more modern designs. Now we got to figure out what's happening over here to the right, because in my case, I obviously have some space kind of hanging over with my countertop here. At the edge right here, pull it out. There we go. And now I'm going to measure the distance from, say, from this edge down to here. If you look right here, it's 3 feet. Did that on purpose to be nice to the people who have to cut this. So from this line here, I'm offsetting again 3 feet now. We're going from here to here. And see, we don't see how this curves. So I'm using the fillet again to kind of wrap these lines around. We don't see how this curves because on our plan, we're looking at this straight ahead. So the curve edge is kind of what I'm fiddling with right now. So that's kind of what's done for my enlarged view of this side of the island. So some of you will still have to put in things like your faucets, maybe your stovetop, maybe you have a microwave in here. So a lot of you have pretty big islands because we can fit a lot in here. So that's what you're going to work on there. Now, my island, though, actually, because I kind of cheated here, I want bar height actually. So I actually want this whole section to be taller in bar height. So this is actually not quite correct. So this little guy does end here. So I'm going to actually start outlining them now with different colors. We're also going to want to bring in, forgot to say, your elevation line weight. So we'll do that in a minute, but I will pause, bring mine in quick here. My elevation line weights here. And for this countertop, this one that's at countertop height, so this chunk right here is closer to my face somewhat than this one back here. Explain that in a second. So I want to use, in this case, the medium thickness right there. In my case, it's teal. So I have a rectangle, and I'm literally just going to trace what I already put in with my lovely depth points. Okay. So now in my case, I'm planning to have this little kind of wall behind my cabinets that helps support this long countertop and have it at bar height. So bar height now I'm going to use from the ground is 42 inches tall. So I'm going to offset that to 42 inches tall. And then I'm going to come up here. And that actually then is going to come down that line 1.5 inches because the top of the bar is at that height. So that's my countertop there. So it actually ends over here. So let me put that in there in a second. And I'm going to kind of mimic this line here. All right. And then this guy I'm going to put on, I'm going to draw my rectangle, but now I'm going to draw it on the thin layer. So I'm going from this corner all the way over to there. All right. And I'm going to leave this line here for now because there is like what's going to happen right here. I'm going to have this kind of like little wall that comes up, and I'll probably put some cute little tile in there or something. But because there's going to be, you know, some design or backsplash to this. If you have a sink here, any kind of water, you have to have this tile. Mine, it could just be like, it could be decorative wood there if I wanted to. All right, so let me erase out the rest of these lines so you can see this. Okay, so here, this becomes a line because there's a little wall here. So we're going to pull this up to there, into there. And actually, I'll match the properties of this to that. All right, there we go. Okay. All right, so this is what looking at, standing here and looking at my island is what's happening. Now, I have a wall running most of this way supporting this. This is where you're going to talk to the fabricator and go, is that enough? No, it's probably not. There's probably going to be a lot of brackets here. There might even be a leg here. So in my case, I might need an elevation looking this way, showing all the little brackets. But for now, what we're doing this semester in class, that works okay. All right, the next thing we need to do is do a section because this kind of explain what's going on, but we need something that's now cutting through the middle to really explain to somebody who's buying and putting this all together what's happening. All right, so that's called a section cut. So we're going to go back over to their tool palettes. This is the section mark I want you to use here. What you're going to do is you got to figure out which way you want to look. I want to look this way because there's more information of what's going to happen here. And we'll evaluate this in class. So your first click is the tail. So in my case, I'm going to left click here, put the tail in. Then I'm going to left click here to put the little head in. Then you have to hit enter. And then you're going to have to see how there's like a little kind of like a crop box sort of thing. I'm going to go all the way out here. And I'll show you in a second when it catches. All right, we're going to say 1 inch equals a foot. We're going to say current drawing. And we're going to put it somewhere over here to the right. Okay, so it doesn't give you much. It gives you a cross cut of the cabinet. But what I'm going to do now is line this guy up over here. One of the things to do is I just deleted all my def point lines, but I'm going to put them back in now. So we're going to go back to def points because you want to use what's happening here on the left side of what you've just drawn as your reference over here. So I'm going to put def point here. Again, I know the math, so I'm going to put it in quick. So that's an offset of 1.5 inches. And then from the ground, I'm going to offset 42 inches and get that line towards the top. Oh, it's kind of short. Let's pull it this way. And then offset, that's going to go down 1.5 inches. All right, so now what's happening? All right, so what's happening here can get a little confusing based on where you're looking. So imagine almost if you're standing right in the middle here, you're looking this way. That's what the arrow is telling you. So the cabinet is on my right if I'm standing here in the middle, but the countertop, the island height one, is on my left. So that's what's happening over here. So my countertop starts not quite here. So we're going to pop this over to about 1/2 inch because your countertop usually hangs over just a little bit. So it's going to start there. And then we got a couple things going on. We have a tiny little like baby wall here in the middle. So, and let me check what I drew it at. Probably 3.5. Let's see. Yep, 3.5. Okay, because that's kind of the smallest we can do. So we'll talk that out in just a minute. So we go here, escape, 3.5 inches, go to the left. That's going to be like my little baby wall in there. All right, now the width of this island right here, again, we can measure quick. And I'm going 2 feet that way. Again, I was trying to make life easy for the math person. So this line now goes off to 2 feet this way. So the countertop that sits on top of this guy is going to be, I'm going to put it on the medium level. There it is up here. Okay, there's my rectangle. We're going to go from here to here. But then the next countertop is going up here from here to here. And I'll take those kind of reference lines out in a minute. Delete. Oh, actually, no, I don't want to keep, I want to keep that one. We're going to take these guys out. So you can now see here's the lower countertop. Here's the upper one. And there is going to be a wall drawn inside of here. Again, it's going to depend on the math that you're doing. So kind of the way this works, and I'll explain it really quickly, is okay, drywall. We're going to probably have drywall on this side or some kind of paneling. So that's usually 5/8 of an inch. So this line goes in 5/8 of an inch. Now you might have tile or something here. If you have tile, you still have to stick it on something. So you're still sticking it on drywall. So we go in this far for drywall. Now the space that's left in here, again, I've kind of mathed it out on based on real world stuff, is 2.25 inches. That's basically a 1x2 board. So it means it's 2 inches long, 1 inches thick. So this comes down offset 1 inch. And again, I will help you with carpentry math on this. And the way you draw a board in cross section is you just make an X through here. So we have that. All right, we got that one there. We're going to copy this because you're going to have, to make a wall, you're going to have a board here. You're going to have a board along the top, a board along the bottom. You're basically building like a rectangular shape. I know for those of you who are missing this, this is confusing in class, but I'm going to show some more examples to folks in person too. All right, here is the piece of wood on the bottom. And then we got to put all these lines on various kind of different line layers. So let me trim this out first. All right, so we have this gets trimmed out. This gets trimmed out. All right, so now the lines that I want to use for this, I'm going to use actually my pretty dark ones here because I'm showing that this is a wall. This is a nice solid wall right here. And then I'm going to get the lighter one right here, and then do these guys on the inside. And I would also probably change this to this one here. There we go. Alrighty, almost done. Okay, so the last thing you want to do is also tell people this is a real wall. So the pattern, there's a patch pattern for gypsum board. So we're going to put that in there now too. So this is only if you have a wall that you have to do all this, but we're getting it on the video now so we can. All right, so now to clean up and finish this off, you have to add some hatch patterns in here. So we want a pattern for our countertops. So I'm going to just type in the word hatch. I'm going to pretend mine are probably granite or stone. I'm going to pick S to select the object. So in my case, it's this one and this one, right? And then we're going to go into that, edit it, hatch edit. I'm going to use the arc concrete one because that often looks like stone in our industry. So there it is there. Use that one. And I'm going through this quick because again, most semesters you've already done this. I'm going to change the scale of this a little bit so we can see it. And let's see, we'll make this a little smaller just so it's a denser pattern. 0.5. Okay. All right. And now that's going to be on, zoom in here again. This is going to be, I might even make this smaller, but we're going to put this instead of the def point layer. We're going to make sure it's on hatch. So we're going to scroll down to that. All right. Now it's on the hatch pattern. Okay. So we got that. And if you have this wall situation, you also want to hatch in these spaces here to tell us it's drywall. I'm going to first outline it as a rectangle just to make it a little less fussy as a hatch pattern. I'm going down to here. Oh, there's going to be something else we're going to talk about too. All right. Here to here. All right. And I'll pause and just kind of show you what the end result looks like for that. To get that done. It's hard to see against my black and white screen, but I did this at a really dense layer. It's like 0.125. And again, making sure I'm on the hatch layer. That's to give some indication that this is a different material here. Okay. All right. So this is now where you can see the different materials. This is drywall. This is finishing this wall up. You might have tile here. You might have wood paneling. So you're going to have to draw that too. I am going to draw in a bracket here. You also need to draw in base molding because again, we're going to have something decorative on this side, this back of the cabinet. So this is where it's going to get highly customized by each one of you. And again, I will sit with you. We'll talk about and figure out all the pieces that go into this drawing. But once we've drawn this, we're not done. Then we're going to dimension all of this, add math to it, add labeling to it to make it real clear. All right, so this was a kind of blitz into how to do this. For those of you who are not able to be in class with us, when we cover this, do as much as you can on your own, then come in, and then there'll be something we can all work with and fix together. But again, work your way through it. This part shouldn't be too hard, so get this part done first, the front elevation. Add in your things like faucets, microwaves, whatever other things might be happening in your cabinets here. I think a lot of you had microwaves in there too. So get that figured out. That's kind of the first step to logically understand this, and then do your best of doing a section cut, but know that CAD is really only going to give you the base outline shape of the cabinet, and you yourself now have to draw and figure out the different heights for your island.